This is Christina from The Upcoming. So lovely to speak with you today.
You too. Nice to see you.
To start things off, would you like to tell us a bit about Hampton and Astoria Chambers, your characters in Government Cheese?
Well, Hampton Chambers, as we meet him in the beginning of the show, has been incarcerated for a time, and he's had this religious epiphany that has led him to invent this self-sharpening drill that he has decided is going to be the means by which he's going to work his way back into the affections of his family and create a better life for them. But he has quite the cold water thrown on that fact when he when he arrives home and sees his wife, Astoria Chambers.
And Astoria Chambers has been married to Hampton for decades.
Yeah.
Although she loves her husband dearly, she has moved on at the point where we see her. She is trying to forge another path for herself in her career, trying to become not just a receptionist, but an interior designer. And she is supporting her sons, who are unique and quirky and different individuals. One wants to become a pole vaulter, and the other wants to dive into Native American culture. And so when Hampton returns and wants to have his family very neat and tied into a bow in this home that he is purchased or that he has gotten for them in the San Fernando Valley, Astoria is decidedly against going back into that same pattern, into that same system that they once operated under. And so she's challenging Hampton to make good on his word, but to also be better, as she is trying to do for herself. And so it's a wonderful dynamic between the two of them. And I think it's one that we don't really get to see set in that time period and with these kinds of people. So hopefully it's something that the audiences will be inspired by and find entertaining.
On the topic of the time period, the show is set in 1969 in the San Fernando Valley. How did you as actors ground your characters in that specific time and place?
Well, the show is based on our creator's youth in the San Fernando Valley. Paul Hunter, who had approached me with the short film version of this 6 years ago. I'm essentially playing a version of his father. Simone is playing a version of his mother. And so we were able to really rely on his experience, his anecdotes, shooting in the San Fernando Valley. We, in fact, shot the short film in Paul's mother's house. And we shot not far away from his mother's house when we actually did the show itself. And the amazing thing about the San Fernando Valley is obviously we're in the modern era now, but the houses don't look that dissimilar. You know, you had to remove a couple solar panels and maybe change the odd road sign, but certainly some of the areas that we were shooting look pretty much the same. So there was a specificity that was very accessible between Paul being there and the place we actually shot the show.
And on the topic of the show's very interesting title, was Government Cheese something you had heard about or had an opinion of before?
Absolutely. I remember being a kid and my dad bringing home government cheese, powdered milk, and butter. And we were a working class family. We weren't on public assistance, but he had gotten it from somewhere. And my brother and sister and I were like, why? You can go to the grocery store and get all of these things. But my dad also was an innovator, but there was a feeling of, this is something that we had heard of and we had seen, and now we had it in our house. And, we have been around audiences and people who are familiar with government cheese and who did grow up with it. And they all have their own nostalgia for it. They made the best grilled cheese sandwiches with it, or they made mac and cheese with it. And so it's something that I think definitely is a conversation point amongst those who have an actual knowledge of it. But it also, I think, speaks to innovation. And which is what we are hoping that people are able to see when they see this series, is that government cheese, although you're making something out of what is seemingly nothing in some ways. That is what the Chambers family is doing. That is what Hampton is doing with his drill. That is what Astoria is doing with her aspirations to be an interior designer. It is all about innovation. It is all about creativity and trying to ascend your status.